bracket. Andersen's both. No relation here, though.
I thought we were going to build a narrative that Todd was Chris's father, but...
See, Todd with the traditional Nordic Andersen, whereas I believe Chris would be the Swedish Andersen. So...
Checks out.
Yeah. Similar, but yet very, the difference very, very important, especially if, you know...
If it's your name.
Yeah. It's one of those things, like, for people, you know, people not from the Midwest would be like, yeah, Minnesota, Wisconsin, they're like the same.
Couldn't
and then
be more different.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Todd, the first play of the game will be Cathartic Reunion on turn 2. Pitching looks like Aetherworks Marvel and a land. Interesting here to see him get rid of a Marvel so early. I suppose he has no energy.
Yeah, no energy. He also sees a Port Town, perhaps thinking that this is better in my graveyard than under a Spell Queller.
Sure. Chris plays a second Port Town and passes. Todd plays Aether Hub for the turn. He drew another Cathartic Reunion. Now, he's got to watch out, right? A card like Revolutionary Rebuff, you really just can't let Cathartic Reunion get countered.
Yeah, 3-for-1s are what you want to avoid in the game of Magic.
Yeah, Chris playing another land, and now players are just trading land drops. Todd can go for a 4-mana spell. He has Aetherworks Marvel, Chandra, 2 more lands in Cathartic Reunion. He's just pretty soft to a counter right now. He will try the Marvel, and that will quickly get quelled.
Now, I like this if Chris's only form of interaction is the Queller. Now, if Todd's able to resolve the Chandra, it just kills the Queller. Yep, exactly. If Chris goes for like a Gideon here, this would be a big opening, but Chris wisely passes.
Draw, attack for 2. We draw from Todd. It's Harnessed Lightning. So that plus Chandra gives him a lot of ways to interact with Spell Queller.
You know, I think if I'm Todd, I want to wait at least until Chris's turn to cast the Harness Lightning, maybe until my following turn, so I can cast Harness Lightning and Chandra on the same turn.
Yeah, he'll just pass. On upkeep, and I like this a lot, he will go for Harness Lightning. I think he's trying to play around Revolutionary Rebuff. And actually, that's just going to work. Marvel enters the battlefield. 1 energy for Todd. He's still a ways away from activating it. But Chris plays a 5th land and passes. Blue Light Flash deck not doing too much on its main phase.
Todd still does have to find some ways to get some energy and be able to activate the Marble.
Yeah, he's really short on energy, actually. He'll play Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Playing it into an open 5 mana, he's got to expect something like Avacyn from Chris.
Notably, Andersen doesn't just kill Chandra in one swing, and the Chandra is not super important. He might even be fine just converting it into energy. If he pluses it and finds a Puzzle Knot, that'd be very good.
Big, when he pluses it and finds a Tune, that will get him 2 energy and another land drop. You look at his graveyard. He's got land, artifact, sorcery, instant. He's actually just naturally building toward Emrakul.
Yeah, with that Marvel that he discarded on turn 2. And in light of the fact that he found a second Marvel, that's really paying dividends.
And now we will see if Chris does have an end step absent. He doesn't. He just draws. Flooding on lands here. Looks like he has 3 more lands. Reflector Mage, Stasis Snare, and that's it.
When you get to the 5 mana point, you know, Todd thinks for a turn that you might have Evison, but now it's becoming clear that he just has the cards that aren't very good in this matchup. Reflector Mage not going to be terribly relevant here. The Stasis Snare, it takes care of an Emrakul, sure, but Chris still has to kill Todd.
And a really interesting draw from Todd here, too. He draws his 1-of copy of Blighted Woodland. It's actually a ramp spell. An expensive
Makes an energy, too.
Yeah. He'll plus Chandra to make mana and just cast Emrakul this turn. He uses the mana ability on Torch of Defiance. So 7 lands in play, 4 card types in the graveyard, and then 2 mana off Chandra. That's 13. Chris is going to Stasis Snare the Emrakul, but now Todd gets his turn and sees that, yeah, there's not much going on. Chris's hand, after the draw step, is 3 more lands, a Spell Queller, and a Reflector Mage.
I imagine that the best line for Todd here is just move on with his life with this information.
Well, he could cast both, right? He could cast Reflector Mage and Spell Quell it.
Yep, he certainly could.
Or just play them both as some 2/3s.
That allows Chris to use his extra turn to pressure his Chandra.
Oh, right, Chris does get it right. Chris gets another turn after.
Given the fact that Chris just has these creatures, though, Todd likely not going to be able to ultimate the Chandra anyway. And Todd does have the Cathartic Reunion, so that's a reason to get the Spell Queller onto the battlefield.
Yeah, he decides to cast the Spell Queller. And then Chris takes his own turn, knocks Chandra down to 4, plays another land, and passes. His draw was Stasis Snare. That's the card that Todd doesn't know about. And Chris is actually just going to cast Reflector Mage as a 2/3. At this point, he needs all the pressure he can get.
And this is where Reflector Mage only being able to target opponent's creatures is sort of a drawback. He really wishes he could just pick up his Spell Queller.
Attune with Todd. That gets him up to 5 energy. And with Blighted Woodland, he should be able to get to 6.
Also just has Cathartic Reunion in hand, so he could dig for something else as well, and still have mana to activate the Woodland.
Yeah, he did. So he actually, after getting the Mountain, just played it. So now back down to just 2 cards. So can't use the Reunion yet. But you're right, it was an option for him. And now he's up to 6 energy off Blighted Woodland, gets 2 more lands. So this brings Todd up to 9 lands in play. And more importantly, 6 energy for that Aetherworks Marvel. Chandra will -3 to knock Spell Queller out of the skies. And will Todd Marvel? Yeah, he'll go ahead and do it during Chris's upkeep, it looks like. Finds. Looks like Ishkana is the best find for him, but he does have Delirium, so she will bring along 3 1/2 spiders. And now Chris is going to have to find a way through. He starts with Thraben Inspector. That makes a clue. He draws a card off the clue. He draws Always Watching. Giving his creatures 1/1 and Vigilance. Not terrible here, but he hasn't really done enough damage yet.
Todd's still at 18. It will take a little bit of time for Todd to get back up to 6 energy. He's down to 0. Hasn't drawn any puzzle knots.
We're back to Todd. Pluses Chandra. Shows the larger Chandra, Chandra Flamecaller on top of the deck.
Upgrade.
No energy for the Marvel right now. He will go ahead and make that upgrade. Chandra Flamecaller into play. Gets 1 energy off the first Chandra leaving play. Will he do more? Still has 2 more lands and a Cathartic Reunion in hand.
I like just plussing the Chandra and getting aggressive here. Chris really isn't up to much. He could have drawn something, I suppose.
Yeah.
He's had a couple top decks.
Todd's going to use the Chandra 0 to discard 3 and draw 4 there.
Okay. It's like casting the Cathartic Reunion, except you don't have to cast it. Plus another
plus an extra card, yeah.
Yeah.
Draws Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot.
It's a good pickup.
Find that. That brings him up to 4 energy and 21 life. And I do wonder here, does Chris, if Chris has lines left to deal enough damage?
Yeah, he's already very far behind on the battlefield, and Todd has on the table a way to make enough energy to continue to spin the Marvel.
Chris asks for the round clock, wondering just how much more of this game he wants to go slog through.
Somehow producing and flipping in Andersen does generate a lot of damage.
He'll play Always Watching, attack both creatures. Now a 3/4 and 2/3 thanks to Always Watching. Todd's got to decide if he wants Chris's creatures to die or if he wants his own. With the 5-man up, Chris is still representing Archangel Andersen. And it looks like the play is going to be to attempt to kill the Reflector Mage and put a chump blocker in front of the Thraben Inspector.
Yeah, and Todd has more Ishkanas where this one came from. He already has a Chandra in play. He's going to be able to spin the Aether, whereas Marvel just needs to survive, and he'll be able to generate more and more threats.
And at this point, Chris decides it's best to work for game number 2. He packs in the cards. So Todd Andersen up 1-0 here in round 3.
These games are probably going to be relatively quick, no matter who's winning. Both Chris is playing kind of an aggressive tempo role, and Todd's deck is generally going to be winning. He was going to be winning at a faster clip, but more time is definitely going to be beneficial. As we move over to the sideboards, Todd Andersen, sideboard 4 Ceremonious Rejection, 3 Tireless Tracker, 3 Tears of Valakut, 2 Kozilek's Return, an Island, a Natural State, and a World Breaker. The biggest finds here are the 3 Tears of Valakut. Those will be more interaction for the Spell Quellers. They can also kill an Andersen if his life total is under duress. That's mostly what we're looking at. Strong argument for Kozilek's Return because he's able to Emrakul and flash it back. It's going to be less good than the Tears, though. On Chris's side, we have 3 Declaration in Stone, 2 Fragmentize, 2 Scatter to the Winds, 2 Spell Shrivel, 2 Blessed Alliance, 2 Jace Unraveler of Secrets, and Always Watching and a Negate. So the counter spells are great. I like Negate, I like Spell Shrivel, I like Scatter to the Winds. I'd be bringing in all 5 of these counter spells. Fragmentize is a little less good because the Marvel has to already be on the battlefield. He has enough ways to counter it outright that it kind of feels like you're over sideboarding if you bring a card like this in.
And I do wonder if Chris is taking a more controlling route with these counter spells, whether something like Jace Unraveler of Secrets comes in so that he can do more of a counterspell card draw strategy.
Yeah, once he gets up to mana to leave up counterspell plus the Jace. Also, the Jace can just bounce an Emrakul on the battlefield. It's not ideal.
Yeah,
it can just be cast again.
It's not as bad as it sounds.
Right.
It's interesting. This player's going to get ready here for a second game. Now, one thing... We are right now in Kaladesh Standard, and we're kind of in that lull in the Magic season, right before the holidays, where, the Commander stuff comes out. But we've had Kaladesh come out for a while, but that means right around the corner in the new year is going to be a change again to Standard, where the next set comes out. That is going to be Aether Revolt. And here's Star City Games. If you register, you can get your store can get a copy of our pre-release playmat. This is, of course, none other than Pandra Nalar, the red Panda version of Chandra. Now, the thing I wonder here is that implies that you're supposed to say Chandra instead of Chandra, which I don't know about that, but I do like the playmat.
Does it? Does it imply that?
Or is it Pandra Noir? I'm just saying you can't have it both ways.
You can do whatever you want. This is a fantasy and fun game.
Well, this playmat will be available, but if you want to get this at your store's pre-release, this is our last chance to sign up for it. So if you're a store owner, head on over to register. If you're a player, let your store owners know. StarCityGames.com/pre-release is where you find out about it, and to get it set up, you can contact us at ISP, that's for in-store programs, at StarCityGames.com.
I want to know why a panda is fighting on the same team as a lizard. That's really the question that I have for this playmat here.
Well, they don't not get along, right? I mean, pandas they're generally pretty
laid
likable.
back.
Yeah, they like bamboo.
But
they hang out.
Lizards are generally very unlikable.
No, I mean maybe I don't know how lizards feel about pandas.
They're cold. They're cold-blooded,
Well, for Todd Andersen, now up a game, number 8 in the Player of the Year race. He is the most storied player here on the SCG Tour. 6 Open wins, 3 Invitational top 8s. Holds the record at 30 Open top 8s. Originally from Alabama, now living in Roanoke, Virginia. He was the runner-up at the Players' Championship last year. You'd have to wonder whether he would find his way back. He has not qualified yet, but he is knocking on the door both for the season end and for season 3. I think it would just be hard to not see him in Roanoke in a month.
Yeah, he does live there, but you're right.
He'll
probably be at the championship as well.
Turn 1, Attune with the Aether from Todd. Finds him a forest. Chris's play one was just a Plains.
And Todd demonstrating that this is his only land, using an Aether Hub and spending the energy, but that's fine. Attune finds him another.
Smuggler's Copter from Chris. Last game, Chris had answers, but just his complete lack of pressure made it easy for Todd.
Copter changes this dynamic a little bit, though Chris has to put something into play that can activate it.
Yeah, you gotta crew the copter. Scatter to the winds, the draw from Chris. And you see he's got Spell Shrivel, Spell Queller, Scatter to the Winds, and Gideon. Be interesting to see how he plays this one.
Yeah, Gideon's the kind of card it's tempting to get it onto the battlefield as fast as possible, but it comes down on the same turn that Todd could be casting an Aetherworks Marvel. I expect to see some patience from Chris.
Another Attune with Todd gets him land number 3 and energy number 4. Or it would if Chris didn't just Spell Quell it outright. But now Todd plays Aether Hub. He'll go up to a more modest 3 energy and then cast Tears of Valakut, getting back his Attune.
That's a huge swing for Todd.
That's a card right out of the sideboard for this matchup.
Got the counter spell out of the way from Chris. Remove the creature that's able to crew the copter.
I suppose on the untap, yeah, Chris would have been crewing the copter. And now it's a big decision point for Chris Andersen. Does he has 2 more 2/3 mana counter spells in his hand and a Gideon. If he can take the risk on the Gideon, and then he's home free if Todd does not make a Marvel.
Yeah, I think a big question here is how many lands are in Chris's hand. If it's unclear that he'll be able to get to enough mana to play the Gideon with counterspell backup, I like just getting aggressive.
He's going to cast Gideon, make a Knight.
It's also true that Todd only has 4 energy currently, so he wouldn't be able to spin the Marvel right away. He has to do something on top of that. He can use the Scatter to the Winds to try to manage Todd's energy.
So the Knight's going to go ahead and jump into the Smuggler's Copter. That attacks for 3. Todd Andersen down to 17. Chris drew Negate and discarded Plains off that. And now we're back to Todd Andersen. This pause makes me think we're not just slamming a Marvel.
No, it does not look like that one is present in hand, and that's going to pay off for Chris in a big way.
Vessel of Nascency, the play for Todd Andersen. And just a pass. He could have made Servant of the Conduit here as well, but looks like he's valuing that activation on Vessel.
Yeah, and with the way that Chris has played here, he elected to just cast the Gideon on a 4. Perhaps Todd thinks that Chris just doesn't have a counterspell, so if he's able to produce the Marvel quickly, has reason to believe it might resolve.
I'm just going to get aggressive. Gideon pluses up to 5. Smuggler's Copter gets crewed. This is an attack for 8. Chris is going to go ahead and loot off Copter. Looks like he's going to discard an Avacyn. And 8 damage comes in. Todd Andersen dropped down to 9. Chris will pick up the other card he drew. That's another island. So now he has double counterspell up. His hand is Negate, Spell Shrivel, Scatter to the Winds. I'm just not sure I see Todd breaking through that in time.
No. Gideon is a very fast clock once it's on the battlefield. There's matchups where you want to grind it out, make a bunch of allies, but in the matchups where you make a token on the first turn and just attack for 5 with the Gideon, that's a huge clock. If Chris is able to produce a creature to crew the Copter, the Gideon Copter ally, that's lethal on the following turn.
Todd's going to try for some spells here. Here's Ishkana, but Chris gets to pick his counter spell. It's going to be Spell Shrivel. That exiles the Ishkana. We go back to Chris Andersen.
A lot of lethal cards that Chris could have here, though demonstrating he doesn't have them.
Now we'll just put Todd to 1. Draws and discards. There goes an island. But he has Scatter to the Winds plus Negate in hand, and he passes with Todd at 1. This should be enough to get him another turn. Todd will go for another Ishkana. Chris has the counterspell, and we are on to game number 3. And Chris Andersen really just showing the strength of the sideboard plan. A heavy number of counter spells. You see both Scatter and Spell Shrivel coming out, and Negate, I guess. All 3 of his counters coming out of the sideboard.
Yep.
He took 1 shields down turn when he made Gideon, and he was rewarded with really an easy victory from there.
Yeah, demonstrating not only the power of the counter spells out of his sideboard, but just the fast clock, the power of Gideon, among the most powerful spells in Standards currently. Closes the game so quickly when it needs to, and against matchups where you need to grind them out, fully capable of that role as well.
So now that things have evened up for Chris Andersen, the player from the Indianapolis area, captain of Team Card Hoarder. At 18th, he's got some work to do if he wants to make it to the Players' Championship, but he's got quite the resume of finishes here on the tour. So 19 open top 8s and only 1 open win. So you saw that with Todd with 30 top 8s. Chris Andersen, I think, really, quieter on the tour, but a very impressive finish of his own.
Yeah, Todd, of course, has 30 open top 8s to his age of 30. Chris is creeping up on matching his age as well, though. You know, for a lot of players, you're lucky to have a top 8 for every year in your Magic career.
Yeah, he's got that one well on lock.
Well, he started playing when he started playing Magic at 4, so
Okay,
not
so you're
quite.
right. No, he's not actually there yet, is he? my mistake. So we're going to get bad match. Players are going to shuffle for game number 3 here. Now, here on the SCG Tour, we have been doing this year new playmats for every season. Now, this was the last weekend where you could get the previous season's playmats, but that means we are announcing our next season playmats, and that starts with the Invitational 2 weeks in Atlanta. So this is for depending on the format, you get a different playmat. So for Standard Opens and Classics, this is for next season, Season 1 of 2017. We'll be giving away Smuggler's Copter, the art from the card, which has really become a staple of Standard here for Standard Opens and Classics. For Modern, it's going to be Aether Vial. This is, of course, the masterpiece Aether Vial from Kaladesh. Seeing some play in Modern, maybe you're a Merfolk player, maybe you just like the art. Also sees play in Legacy, which brings us to our Legacy playmat we'll be giving away, and that is the card Gamble. Gamble, the one that's seeing the card, the staple in the Lands deck. This is going to be your Eternal Master art for Gamble as well. So all these are going to be available at Opens and Classics for all of Season 1. Those are free with entry to the event.
I do like that the art for Gamble looks to be some manner of heist, suggesting that this person gambled and they lost.
You know, I got to play Lands for the first time last weekend. I played a Legacy local event. Gamble's great, except when it's Red and Tomb, and then it's actually okay, depending. Sometimes.
If it's for Life from the Loam.
No, it wasn't. You know. But if it was, I would have been okay with it then. Sometimes you even want to gamble and lose.
Right.
Those are the best kinds of gambling. Chris starts out with a turn 1 Thraben Inspector. For Todd Andersen, it's going to be Attune with Aether. He had to do it on turn 2 because his one land he'd kept was Cinderglade.
Mm-hmm. Only thing he could maybe have on turn 2 over that, I suppose, Cathartic Reunion or a Puzzle Knot he could have had, though, with another 1-mana action spell. That's totally fine.
It's not that Todd kept a 1-lander. It looks like his opening hand had Cinderglade and Basic Mountain, so just no one tapped green on 1. We go back to Chris's turn. He swings with Thraben Inspector and then plays Smuggler's Copter.
Something that Chris is doing, it's a small thing, but it's a good practice to be in. When he reveals a land to his port town, he turns that land upside down in his hand so that he knows to play that land, prioritize more highly, so that he knows that he played what he showed you.
Yeah, it's those little things, and you see, it's so easy to do, and once you get in the habit of doing it, it just improves, it improves your game by that little small amount.
Yep, I have a lot of opponents just play a land that's not the land they revealed to me, that isn't strategically relevant, and that just gives your opponent information. A player like Todd Andersen, the more information you give him, the more dangerous he is.
Todd's still setting up things. His turn 3 play was a second Attune and leaving up mana to crack a Vessel of Nascency. Chris, Cruise Smuggler's Copter attacks. That's going to work. Gets to draw and discard. Draws Port Town. Discards the island, and as you said, that was the upside down one.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one that Todd knew about. Well, now doesn't have to show Todd another card, though. Plays Port Town, showing Plains. And passes. Also a copy of Revolutionary Rebuff in Chris's hand. No good against the card Aetherworks Marvel. But
yeah, non-artifact spells.
Right. Will be good against something like Ishkana out of Todd's deck.
Right. And really the reason that this card has started to pop up in these decks is specifically because of Ishkana, more commonly against green-black Delirium. But it does the job anywhere that the spider shows up.
Todd ends up sacrifices the Vessel of Nascency. He sees two mountains, Servant of the Conduit, and Worldbreaker. Now, if you're wondering if Todd can get back the Worldbreaker, the only colorless mana source he has was that one copy of Blighted Woodland we saw in Game 1. I guess he also does have 4 copies of Aether Hub, so easier. I suppose that it's fair that he can get it back.
Though we're a ways away from going down that road.
Now Todd untaps. He can jam Marvel this turn, but will he? There's so many counterspells on Chris's side. He has to think. I think the coast actually is clear, but it's a bold move if Todd goes for it.
Right.
And he's not going to. Yeah, interestingly enough, if he had jammed Marvel here, he'd have been rewarded. Goes up to 6 energy now. Passes the turn. Chris will crack Clue on end step. Draws Jason, Rivaler of Secrets. So yes, that has come in. Next draw for the turn is Avison. So 2 great 5 mana plays, but he has to get to 5. And here's going to come Smuggler's Copter, accrues and swings for 3. A loot now draws Chris Scatter to the Winds. So while there was a opening for Todd last turn, that is there no longer. Chris has the counterspell at the ready.
And Todd down to 13. Chris with Smuggler's Copter and accrue for it. Todd is under significant pressure here.
And it's these matchups of Teamer Aetherworks versus blue decks that really, I think, got people off of Teamer. This kind of game is just tough for Todd to do anything about it. You look at how he's played. I feel like the only line he actually had that was great was jamming the turn 4 Marvel. I totally understand why he didn't do it. But now it just seems easy for Chris to win from here.
In Todd's hand, he's got 2 Emeralds, it looks like, in his leftovers. So if that Marvel doesn't resolve, he's just kind of up to nothing.
Yeah. Stasis Snare, end step for Chris Andersen.
Huge display of strength from Chris here.
He basically, when he's playing that, he's saying that he's never going to have 3 more mana, so might as well.
I have this removal spell for your 13/13, but I don't like the look of your Grizzly Bears.
Smuggler's Copter. Cruden swung again. Discards an island. Chris played Port Town for the turn. Puts Todd Andersen down to 10. And passes. He's got Jace, Gideon, Scatter to the Winds, and Revolutionary Rebuff all in hand. For Todd, it's going to be Tireless Tracker. Is that enough to draw a counterspell? It is not. And now Todd gets a clue. What I like about that play there is that Todd played this in such a way that if Chris had countered, Todd would have enough mana for Marvel. And now he's going to go for a Marvel anyway. And this should force some action on Chris Andersen.
Yeah, Todd at 10 to Chris at 20. He knows the tracker's not going to win the game on its own. He did what he could. He sequenced the tracker first. Of course, this gets him a clue as well, but he just has to go for the Marvel.
And Chris will scatter it to the Winds. We untap, go back over to Chris Andersen. That was his only counterspell if Todd has another Marvel. Draws Prairie Stream, no help there. Can he get Todd down? He's still a few attacks away, and he's running out of control elements. He's got Jason Gideon. He has his own Planeswalkers, but that's going to be a concern now. Here's a crew of Smuggler's Copter. Swings in for 3. Draws another Copter. At this point, it might be time to ditch the Revolutionary Rebuff. I'm not sure it's going to hit anything anymore.
Well, Todd's hand is multiple Emeralds. He has 7 mana sources on the battlefield and 5 card types in his graveyard. Sorcery, enchantment, artifact, land, creature.
Okay, so the rebuff's still great.
Right. And that's really what Todd's playing to from here. If he can't start making Emrakul happen, he's just going to die.
Chris, for a second there, he looks like he wanted to get rid of Jace, and he does. Plays Prairie Stream, that's 6 mana up. He has Todd down to 7. And now with his 6th land, he can play Gideon and leave up mana for the counterspell. And that just might be his play, contemplating it versus just passing the turn. How much strength does he want to represent?
He does still have that Avison in his hand.
Yeah, I think so. He decides to represent the counterspell and then end step Avison. If it works, the Avison plus the Copter is 7.
And the pickup for Todd here was just a Chandra Torch of Defiance. That's not a 13th mana source. I imagine that Todd's turn starts with cracking a clue, see if he can find something he can do more with.
That's what he's going to do. Start by doing that. Picks up another land. Looks like a copy of Game Trail. Make that Cinderglade. Gets another clue. And no real choice to play on a counterspell. He's going to jam Chandra Torch of Defiance. That's actually okay. So Chris is still playing to this 7 damage in the air on end step, and nothing Todd's doing is stopping that yet.
Mm-hmm. Andersen plus Smuggler's Copter is looking pretty lethal here.
Smuggler's Copter not actually a creature right now. And yeah, I'm not positive that, I guess if Todd could have a really good play here, well, he could try to kill Thraben Inspector, then Chris would, he'd Avacyn?
You're right.
Yeah. It still doesn't work. She pluses and cracks, Todd gets another clue and a card, and he gets an Ishkana. That doesn't help either.
Todd really wanted to produce either a Tears of Valakut or a Harness Lightning to remove one of these flyers.
Avacyn in play, and that's going to be the game and match for Chris Andersen. Blue-White Flash is your winner. He loses game 1, but after the counterspells come in out of the sideboard, Todd just cannot find an opening.